What is up, Star Wars nerds, and welcome to another episode of Brett on FET. On today's episode, I'm going to be giving an overview of my thoughts on Hasbro's latest releases from this past week. Then we're going to take a deep dive look at 3 different types of clamshell figure cases to protect your figures. And finally, we're going to talk about my first ever subscriber giveaway. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 11 of Brett on FET. And before we get into the clamshell talk and the giveaway talk, I want to give a quick overview on my thoughts from Hasbro's recent releases from this past Wednesday, March 16th, when they revealed a number of Black Series and Vintage Collection through various fan sites. There's some interesting reveals, so let's take a look at them. Alright, so first up for the Black Series, we got a couple of Gaming Greats reveals. The first being this 13th Battalion Trooper from Jedi Fallen Order. Pretty decent looking clone on that new Clone Trooper sculpt. Looks good. The next was Fixer from Republic Commando. He's the second from that Republic Commando squad. The first was Boss. And just like Boss, Fixer has the mold used is just too skinny for the character. But other than that, it looks pretty cool. And moving on to the Vintage Collection, the first reveal was this reissue of a Death Star gunner. The first time we saw this guy in Vintage Collection was on a Rogue One card back, and now they're putting him on a Return of the Jedi card back. And I love this new trend. This is a great idea, rather than reissuing a figure on the exact same card that we had before, because this way it doesn't devalue the original figure that people may already have, but it gives new collectors a chance to still get that figure that they want. So this is a great idea. I love this trend. I hope Hasbro keeps it up. And next up is a clean R2-D2. I love this one because I'm a huge R2 fan, and the only R2s we've gotten in the Vintage Collection so far are a dirty one on a New Hope card back, which I thought was odd, and then the Waiter R2 from Jabba's barge, which was an awesome figure, but I've been wanting just a regular clean R2-D2, and I'm finally getting it, and they're putting on an Empire Strikes Back card. I love this classic card back with C-3PO and R2-D2, so I'm really happy with this one. Next up is another reissue, but this is a good one because it's the original trilogy Stormtrooper, but it's finally going to be on a New Hope card back that we've never gotten. And this is a great version of the Stormtrooper. It's the definitive Stormtrooper. It's the one that came with the carbon freezing set. He looks great. He's got the holster. And the card back we're going to get is going to have this same classic image that's seen here on this Empire Strikes Back card back that was VC41. And on this Return of the Jedi card back that was also VC41. But this time it'll just be the regular Star Wars badge on it, just like this retro collection, of course without the retro sticker. But I'm wondering if this is also going to be VC41, or are they going to give it a brand new VC number? And finally, we got 2 long overdue new figures for the Vintage Collection. It's these 2 Bespin guards, starting with this mustache guy here. There's a look at his card back, which I'm not a huge fan of. Then there's this Bespin guard here, and I like his card back a lot. That's a classic card back image. The only issue I have with these 2 guys is they have this weird mid-torso joint that we also saw on the Lobot figure. I just think it's an unusual place to put a joint. I mean, why not have it swivel at the hips? Why the mid-torso? It just looks odd. I just don't get it. But other than that, I was very happy with these reveals. We got some classic reissues and some new characters we really needed for the Vintage Collection. Okay, so depending on whether or not you're a carded figure collector, or how big of a collector you are, or how long you've been collecting, you're probably aware of these plastic figure cases known as clamshells. We call them clamshells because they've got a front piece and a back piece that clamp over the figure. And by far the most popular clamshell out there worldwide is known as the Star Case. And this is a Star Case I'm holding here. These are made by a company called ProTech. And today I want to take a deep dive into not only the star case, but two other types of clamshells. The second being what I would say is the second most popular clamshell out there. This is the figureshield. This is the ST69 model figureshield, and for a standard 6x9 action figure card. And then I'm going to put those two up against this guy, which is a clamshell made by a company called Caseshells. So today we're going to go over all three of these, compare the pluses and minuses, so that hopefully it will help you decide what is the best clamshell for you in your collection. Let's get to it. So here's a look at the three different clamshell cases we're going to be reviewing today. Starting with, on the left, the Star Case 1. Then in the middle, the Figureshield ST69 Type A. And then on the right, the Caseshell Standard Card Clamshell. And all three of these are for standard 6x9 carded action figures. And I wanted you to first take a look at them without the figures inside, just so you can get a better idea of the opacity and clarity of the material. And starting with the Star Case, has a triangular tab, and it is the most clear of the three, I would say. And on the Figureshield, it actually has bubble tabs at the top that snap in, and also includes a punchable hanger tab in the middle. You can't really see it very well on the camera, but it does have a slight haze to it as for UV protection, so it is a little bit less clear than the Star Case. And here is the Caseshells case. You can see it has two smaller circular bubble tabs at the top for locking it in place. And as you can see, the Caseshells is the least clear of the three cases, but it does have UV protection, so you got a little bit of a trade-off there. And here next is a look at these three cases with carded figures inside them. I tried to pick three different figures that had similar color palettes and brightness. Here's a look at the back of the cards. Starting with the Luke Skywalker Hoth in the Star Case. And then let's take a look at the Rebel Soldier Echo Base in the Figureshield case. And lastly, we have Lobot in the Caseshell case. So you can get an idea of what these figures look like in these cases. So one neat bonus about the Caseshells cases that I wanted to share with you guys is that they come shipped with this protective film over them, and that's to help keep them from getting scratched during shipment. But also, once you get it, if you know you're going to store that particular figure away somewhere, you can leave that film on there to help protect them until you're ready to finally display them, and then you can just peel that film off. So I think that's a really great feature for the overall protection of the case. And next up, I want to go over the measurements for the cases, starting with the Star Case. So we got the overall height, not including the hang tab section, is just under 10 inches, and then with the hang section is about 10.5 inches. The overall width is about 6 3/4. And next I'm going to measure the depth of the bubble, and this is actually one of my least favorite things about the Star Cases. The bubbles are very deep, over 2 inches, so it leaves quite a bit of a gap between the front of an average figure bubble and the front of the case. And then next I'm going to measure, there's a vertical gap between the back of the case and the bottom of the front of the bubble, which creates kind of a lean effect. And so I'm going to measure the vertical gap in all these cases for you guys. And the Star Case measured at 0.25 inches. Yeah, so I had quite a bit of a lean angle there. All right, next up is the Figureshield case. I'm going to measure the height, not counting the hang tab section, and as you can see, it's about 9.5 inches or so. And then the overall height is almost 11 inches. The overall width is 6 3/4. And let's take a look at the bubble depth. This has a much better, much more appropriate bubble depth to me. It's 1 3/4 inches, so this leaves a very little gap between the front of the average figure bubble and the front of the case, so I like that. Next, we're going to measure that vertical gap between the back of the case and the front, bottom of the bubble for the lean angle. and it's slightly less than the star case at 0.188 inches. And so you see it's got a slightly less lean angle than the star case had. And finally, let's take a look at the measurements for the caseshells case. Starting with the height, not counting the hang tag section, is just over 9.5 inches. And then the overall height, counting the tab section, is just over 10.5 inches. The overall width is 6.625 inches. And taking a look at the bubble depth, it's exactly the same as the figure shield, 1.75 inches. That's great. Just a little bit of a gap there between the front of the bubble and the case. And then the vertical gap between the back of the card and the bottom of the front bubble is very slight. It's the least of the three. It's 0.125 inches, which just has a slight lean angle to it. I believe it is the best of the three. And here's a profile view of all three cases side by side, so you can see the amount of lean between the three of them. And this is important for collectors like me who like to put their figures on a shelf rather than hanging them on the wall. And it might be a little bit hard to tell, but the star case on the left has the most lean, the figure shields in the middle, and the case shells has the least amount of lean. And next up, we're going to take a look at the ease of installation for these cases and the overall fit of the figures for the cases. And starting with the star case, you just load these from the front, face down, fits nicely inside. There's a little bit of wiggle room there, and then you just lock the back into place. Very, very easy. Fits really well. You can see there's a little bit of play there on the edges. It's not a entirely perfect fit, but very good. Very easy to install. And it's very secure. It's not moving around in there or anything like that. So very good installation, very good fit for the star case. Next up is the figure shield. Now, these are a little more difficult to install. They've got a thinner little lip edge there, especially at the top and bottom. And so the best way to install a figure on a figure shield is to actually load it on the bottom first. And you want to just kind of center it and take your time and get it as centered as possible on that backing, and then load the top piece on top very carefully, being careful not to move around the card. It is not the easiest of installs. You press around everything on the side, then you lock in the bubble tabs. But as you can see, there is plenty of room there in the corners. It's not a perfect fit, but it's not jamming it into the sides either. It's well centered. If you be a little careful, it's very easy to get it centered on these new figure shields. And I say new figure shields because this is an example of the old figure shields that had a very small lip. It was a very small lip, and it was so hard to get these cards centered. So you'd have, often like in this case, you have one side that's really kind of jammed into that side, and then the other side had a little more play, and it was just really hard for some reason to get these things centered. And so Figure Shield did a great job of fixing that issue by increasing the size of that lip all the way around. Just made it a lot easier to center it well, where you had plenty of play and not worry about jamming one side. So really happy with the adjustments they made on the new Figure Shield. And lastly, we have the case shells installation fit. And the case shell fits similar to the star case. You just prop it down there, top loaded. This one fits. It has just a really good feel to it when you put it in there. It seems to fit perfectly, and it's just about as easy as the star case, with the exception of you do have to press in those circular tabs, but that just kind of gives it a more secure feel there. So very pleased with the fit. It's very consistent all the way around the edges. You can see the corners are right there all the way around. It's locked into place. So a very easy installation, and in my mind, a perfect fit. All right, so next up, I want to take a look at how these cases do with other 6x9 cards that have the larger bubbles. And I'm using this Grogu Retro Collection as an example. It has a much thicker bubble that goes all the way to the bottom of the card. And as you see with this star case, it does really well. It's not affected at all. So that is one advantage of the star case. Now here I'm going to try to put that Grogu figure in the figure shield, and because the bubble comes to the bottom and it's so thick, you can see I just cannot get it to go all the way in to this figure shield. There's just no way it's going to fit at all. So the figure shields are not compatible with the larger bubbled 6x9 cards. And finally, I'll try to fit the Grogu into the caseshells case. And it's kind of the same thing as the figure shield. It almost makes it. It gets it in there a little bit better, but just not quite. You see, I can't get the top part in. It just can't quite make it. So again, not compatible with these larger bubbled 6x9 cards. And lastly, I want to go over the pricing for these cases, starting with the Star case, which are sold at tons of different retailers online. I did a lot of research, and the cheapest I could find it was at $3.16 each, or you could buy a 25 pack at $2.90 each, a 50 pack at $2.75, and a 100 pack at $2.50 each. And then at figureshield, they have them for $3.50 each, or you could buy a 5 pack, 10 pack, 25 pack, 50 pack, or 100 pack, and they get cheaper as you go, as I've shown here, with the cheapest being $2.70 each. And then caseshells pricing was by far the cheapest at $1.65 each, or you can order a 60 pack at $90 or $1.50 each. Okay, so I divided this thing up into 7 main categories for the cases to rate them under each category. And starting with opacity, I ranked the Star case number 1. It was the most clear. The figure shield just slightly less clear than the Star case, and the case shell by far the least clear of the 3. Next up for protection, I ranked case shells number 1 due to its UV resistance, as well as that awesome protective film that comes with the case during shipment. Figure shield I ranked number 2. It also has UV resistance. I did not measure the level of resistance, obviously, between case shells and figure shields. But all things being equal, I would still put case shells above it because of that film that it comes with. And then I ranked Star case last in protection because it has no UV protection that I could find in any research I did. For the lean angle, I ranked case shell number 1 because it had the least angle, figure shield number 2, and Star case number 3. Moving on to installation or ease of installation, I ranked the Star case number 1 simply because you could just drop the figure in there and snap the backing on. Very easy. Ranked case shells number 2, also very easy. It's only a little bit more difficult because you have to do that extra little step to snap in those bubble tabs, but it's really no big deal. These could almost basically be tied. And then figure shield is by far the least easy to install because of the way you really have to be careful with centering your card back. Next up for overall fit, I ranked case shells number 1. It just seems like the Vintage Collection Star Wars 6x9 cards just fit perfectly in the case shell case. Star case I ranked number 2. Also very good fit, but just a little tiny bit off in some corners sometimes. And then the figure shield, the least perfect fit of the 3. Although the new version of figure shield is much improved, and you can get the cards centered there and they do not pinch in any way, so I do like that. Next, for figure compatibility with those larger bubbled 6x9 cards, I ranked Star case number 1. It met the challenge. The larger bubbles fit just fine. With case shells, it got a little closer, but still would not fit, so I ranked it number 2. And then number 3 with the figure shield, where it just wouldn't fit at all. And finally, for price, I ranked case shells number 1. It was by far the cheapest. Star case I ranked number 2, although really the prices are all over the board depending on which retailer you find online, but the cheapest I found it was cheaper than figure shield, so I had figure shield ranked 3rd for price. And there you have it. Here's one last look at all 3 cases up close: the Star case, figure shield, and case shells case. And I will leave links in the description of this video of where you can order these cases. And before I close out this segment, I did want to give an extra shout out to Case Shells because I've also purchased from them these awesome acrylic cases For a standard 6x9 card, you can see I got my HASLab Grogu. In this one I got from Caseshells. Here you got their branding on the back bottom right corner. Nice little touch. It's got the sliding door on the bottom. I couldn't be happier with these cases, and you could order these at $14 each. You can order them by emailing Tom Hogan of Caseshells at caseshells@yahoo.com. And he's also got this awesome acrylic case that fits those special action figure 3-pack sets. And those are $18 each. So go ahead and email Tom if you're interested in getting one of these acrylic cases. Okay, so hopefully you found my review helpful, and now you know a little more detail about the differences between the star cases, the figure shields, and the case shields. I really don't think you can go wrong with any of the three. It really just depends on which aspects are more important to you. Alright, now for the exciting part. I've almost gotten to my first 100 subscribers, and once I hit that milestone, I will be having my first ever subscriber giveaway. And all you got to do to enter to win is 1. Be a subscriber, 2. Like this video, 3. Leave a comment on this video. And then once I hit that milestone, I will select a subscriber at random to win the prize. And the prize is going to be your choice of one of 8 different Star Wars figures that I'm going to show you right now. Alright, so the first choice of prizes is the C-3PO from the Droids collection. Really cool figure. Love the card back. Still waiting on that Boba Fett and R2. But at least we have 3PO. And it's in good shape. Next up, one of my favorite carbonized figures, the carbonized incinerator trooper from the Mandalorian. The card's in pretty good shape. It's got a few markings, pressed in markings, but a lot of those came that way. But other than that, you know, the card's flat and everything. It's in pretty good shape. Really neat carbonized figure there. Next choice is the Ewok Tebow on Return of the Jedi card. It's VC207. This is in really good shape, except it's got this weird ring around on the card that I've seen sometimes from, I don't know, it's some kind of factory issue. It's real faint, but it's there, so just letting you know. And possibly the best of the lot, I've got this brand new red ARC Trooper Captain from the Tartakovsky Clone Wars. This came from Walmart, but it's in excellent shape overall. It's VC213. The only issue it's got is at the very top. It does have some edge wear, but it's really in good shape other than that, especially for being from Walmart. It's really about as good as you can get from Walmart. And then next is more along the lines of Walmart shipment. These are 2 beaters, and these will go together. So you can actually pick to have both of these together because they are in such bad shape. The Ayla Secura is riddled with creases and veining. I did the best I could straightening out this card back with some heavy books and everything, but you just can't get rid of creases. Bubble's in decent shape. It's just the veining and the creasing. Barris Offee, it's really bad. It's got these weird stains on it. The bubble was completely smashed. I popped it out as best as I could. You can see it's coming off the card. It even has a hole in the bubble. So definitely an opener. So maybe if you're an opener collector, you don't mind these defects on the cards, you can have both of these together as one prize. And next, if you're more of a Black Series collector, I've got this awesome Archive Collection Tusken Raider. It's in pretty good shape. Really neat figure. And then last but not least, I've got another Black Series figure. This is from the Bad Batch, the Crosshair. The Bad Batch version, not the Imperial Crosshair, but the Bad Batch version. Very cool figure. It's got a few dings on the box, but overall not too bad. And there you go for you Black Series fans. And that'll do it. Here's one last look at the choices of prize for my subscriber giveaway. Remember, you get to pick one of these, with the exception of the 2 Lady Jedi in the back there. Those 2 will go together as one prize if you want those. And if you pick a vintage collection figure, I will ship it in this case shell clamshell. Okay, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment on this video in order to be entered to win. If I happen to make more videos before I reach the 100 subscriber milestone, I'm still going to be selecting the winner from the comments in this video. Thanks so much for watching. Please remember that you can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Take care, and we'll see you next time.